Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Listen to the Krieger Files and learn from your mistakes. It's the government's worst nightmare. Dave Krieger.
Yes, and we're here for the Thursday edition of the Krieger Files. So glad you could join us. We are live right now on the KriegerFiles.com if you want to plug in and listen to us on the link there. It's in blue lettering. And you can also watch the video, too, if you let it buffer on your computer. You can click that button, and you can also listen to us on Global Star Radio Network's satellite feed. One of the only people, they love to call us a podcast, but we actually are transmitting over satellite. So we're just a little bit beyond the podcast, okay? Yeah, we'd like to cover the news and events and things that are going on right now and trying to shed some light on this nonsense that's going on in D.C., and you've got senators and congressmen out there saying that we need to commit violence in the street. And I'm like, man, you talk about a little dose of insurrection. I mean, anybody that's sitting there trying to publicly incite a riot, especially a member of Congress, and see, they can do that because they think that they can't be charged with a crime because they are, even if it's a high crime and misdemeanor or whatever, insurrection, inciting a riot, you couldn't just put the cuffs on them and take them away, take them to the D.C. gulag, and lock them up for a little bit. Yeah, no. See, Bow Wow Wowzer and the rest of the folk over there at the D.C. Jail, where a lot of the J6 prisoners were being held, they're not about to condone that. They're already fighting Trump, much like a lot of the hierarchies, the echelons, the deep state is fighting Doge right now. So they filed, we're talking about U.S. Office of Personnel Management. They sent out this email through Elon Musk with these Twitter layoffs. Here's what we're going to do. You resign by today. Today's the 6th of February, right? 20,000 plus have already submitted their resignation saying that we will quit. Today's the day. It's a deadline, and we're going to leave amicably. And we're going to take pay all the way until the end of September. What a severance package. All at U.S. taxpayer expense. But see, then I got to ask the other question, the sideline question that nobody's asking. What happens to those 2 million people, less the 20,000 or 30,000 that didn't take Trump up on the offer? And Doge, Elon Musk, it's an extension of Trump. What happens to those people that say no to that? I just got hired on. I like my job. I work from home. I don't want to go to the office. I don't need to go to the office. I function just fine where I'm at, even if I'm in my underwear. It doesn't matter. I'm doing my job. Look at my stats. I mean, they're even complaining to the media. It's nutty. Oh, so what happens to them? Well, you see, eventually, Doge will get around to seeing who's there and who's not. They're going to get into the Treasury Department's payroll, which right now is the only access they have, because you've got 3 unions representing about 800,000 of these 2 million workers filing a federal lawsuit. And so, why is it that you want us to leave office, or what gives you the right to initiate a buyout? What's the legality behind it? Well, it's an executive order. I mean, if he wanted rules by edict. But you see, the Democrats now are screaming bloody murder, wanting to impeach Trump again. They don't like the idea of, and even Rand Paul is blasting Trump over his little Gaza Riviera. See, if you didn't catch on what was going on, let me explain it to you. What's really going on is Trump, remember I was telling you about the teeter-totter, the seesaw, that tips alt-right and alt-left every 4 years, or sits somewhere in the middle when Congress is all getting along and everybody's spending money like a drunken sailor in a strip club? Well, when the teeter-totter swings and the Republicans are weighing it down, which in this case it is, because you got Republican-controlled House and Senate, just barely. And it's not overwhelming because we still have people pushing back. And then Trump comes out and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to sign a bill that all these males out there that think they're women can't participate in women's sports. I mean, just ask, Lady Peyton that's sitting in a wheelchair for the rest of her life now after she got a volleyball spiked by a male dressed up as a female. I swear to God, there's guys who like to wear bras and bounce around on the women's volleyball team wearing their cute little shorts, spiking balls in women's faces, knocking them unconscious and paralyzing them for the rest of their life so they can't function. You see, that's one reason why. But you think the Democrats, they don't care. They don't care about Peyton. They don't care about her. They don't care about these women basketball players. They don't care about Riley Gaines. They don't care about any of that. See, what they care about is whether or not Joseph Stalin is in the White House. That's what they care about. You see, because when Trump goes in there and he starts talking the stuff, walking the walk, signing all these things, and MAGA gets all excited, Mayhaw gets all excited, everybody gets all excited, the mofos get all excited, everybody gets excited. But see, what he's doing is he's causing everyone to unzip their flies and reveal who they are. That's why he's doing it. He's going to extremes down here at the bottom end of the seesaw because he's got control. He's holding them up in the air. They're freaking out because now they're being exposed. This whole Gaza proposal is not going to work out the way you want it to. It's an extreme move to get the other side to come out of the shadows and start yelling so they can be identified. And these people are so stupid, they buy into it. That's why he's doing it. He's doing it to scare the other side into oblivion so they lose their minds and come out and start protesting and demanding, that we want to impeach Trump again, and we need to, it's hysterics. All the things he does. I mean, how about 100 plus executive orders he issued, unraveling and undoing all these things, and then going after USAID. Oh, my God. No wonder everybody's freaking out, man. USAID is all the deep state's cash cow. I mean, they're literally calling in 10,000 workers, USAID agents from all over the globe. I mean, they're literally going crazy. They can't take it. And they want to make the CIA resign. I mean, they want to clean house, and they're doing it to extremes to start with. All right, they're going to see how many people are going to capitulate because they can't stand it any longer. They got to get away from the U.S. government. I'm willing to take this big payout to get out, and I'll go get a job in the private sector. He's doing it to expose all these people. That's why he's doing it. It can't be any reason. He meets with Bibi Netanyahu, and all of a sudden he wants to make the Trump Riviera in Gaza. Really? Put Trump golf course and Trump Tower and Trump this and Trump. That's not going to happen. I mean, you feel sorry for the Palestinians. You can feel sorry for them, because, I mean, hey, look they had terrorists, Hamas, infiltrate their domain and use them as human shields. I'm talking about the Palestinians. And everybody in America gets spoon-fed by the media and their college professors and everybody that they need to come out and protest. Well, now you can see all these libtard schools out there that are created. See, it's a whole idea to get them to come out of the woodwork so they can be identified. I mean, this is what the FBI did to all of these right-wing conspiracy groups or skinheads or whatever. They infiltrate them so they can expose them. They pontificate an idea to see who's going to take the bait. And then they target them. This is just like what they did, the ATF did to Brian Malinowski. He shows up at gun shows and starts talking the talk and walking the walk about guns. And yeah, I buy and sell a few of them on occasion. He's not an FFL. They think he's violating some law, and they targeted him. They even put a tracking device underneath his car. When's the last time you checked underneath your vehicle to see if there wasn't some sort of a tracking device on it? Put there by some federal agent without a warrant? Maybe they didn't have a warrant. Maybe they did have a warrant. See, that's what this FISA 702 is all about. Are you connected to some terrorist group? Or are you just out there espousing hatred and we need to find out who you are and what you're all about? And then you look at what Trump is doing, supporting Israel, and a lot of people are going, I don't think that's a good idea. You nominated a hedge fund manager, and boy, Congress was real quick to get him out of the gate and put him in the Treasury. He's now head of the Treasury. He's a billionaire hedge fund manager. And you don't think he's got deep state connections? Oh, boy, you got another guest coming. Truth will come out. But then you got Democrat Congressman Al Green. He's going to bring impeachment. Oh, yeah, against the already twice impeached Trump, telling his lawmakers, I rise to announce I'll bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. Well, Al Green, you just unzipped your fly and showed everybody your shortcomings. He's the guy that goes to the bus stop, opens up his trench coat, and the bus driver says, I want to see your ticket, not your stub. Because this guy is about this big as far as Congress is concerned, and he's not going to get anywhere. Just the way it is. It's tit for tat. It's nothing but the Schiff show. And you know that if the Democrats were there, I mean, look how hard the MAGA Republicans screamed bloody murder. You see, this is the uniparty merry-go-round. And it doesn't matter what Trump says. It's uniparty BS. It's that simple. And what they want to do is they want to see how many people get caught up in the melee. Because, see, that teeter-totter I'm talking about here operates off of what? A center point. What's that called? The fulcrum. And we're in the middle watching all of this in the fulcrum. We're the base, okay? The teeter-totter is swinging back and forth on the base, if you can get a visual on that, right? I mean, come on, this is common sense. How many of you buy into this stuff, right? Second group of migrant criminals from Trinidad have just been deported. Just so you know, this is ongoing and it's going to continue. It's kind of, as a matter of fact, a suspected killer was also deported. One of the things that Americans, and I was having a conversation with my lovely wife this morning about why these blue state city mayors insist on sheltering migrants. Like Phil Murphy of New Jersey, he's got an illegal immigrant. He even dared the government, drew a line in the sand, say, yeah, come on, good luck trying to get her. And like I said, but they don't need good luck. They'll just come in. They'll just say, you're harboring, oh, yeah, illegal immigrant. Everybody ought to own one. You know, why do they want these people there? Are they sex slaves? Are they being trafficked? Do they owe money to the cartels? I mean, how does this work? I mean, we know that this is what's going on because the cartels are very upset that Trump, see what he did? He's going to impose a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. Why? Because they're sitting there doing nothing, and he had to push their button. And the only way to do it is to screw with NAFTA and impose a 25% tariff to get a reaction out of him, which he did. So Canada points a fentanyl czar and says, oh, we promise. But see, notice he only extended that tariff moratorium for 30 days because he wants to see if they mean business or whether or not, he's just jerking our chain. Don't worry about it. Trump's not going to do anything. Yeah, that's what you think. So Mexico deploys 10,000 troops at the border. You see, it worked. What Trump wanted to do worked. He's a businessman. See, he's a negotiator. He knows how to play the game. He's also a politician, and that's why he is flushing deep state down the toilet and attacking USAID, which is their cash cow, which supplies the CIA with all of its money. You know, some of the stuff that surfaced in the last 24 hours, I mean, seriously, how much money they gave, we're talking about the Department of Defense under Biden, $9 million to Reuters. $9 million of funding, Biden funding, was given to Reuters, which is a news organization that pretty much is, you know, part of the Thomson Reuters group. Do you know what Thomson Reuters is? They publish Westlaw. You know what Westlaw is, right? Those of you legal eagles out there, come on. I've looked in Westlaw before. You go to the library, it's all over the place. You can dig up all this. Westlaw publishes all these reporters. Southwest Reporter, Northwest Reporter, Northeast Reporter, Southern, I mean, they're all there. And Thomson Reuters, who owns the Westlaw, like LexisNexis, except it's online, but Westlaw actually publishes volumes of books that go into law libraries, and they're all tilted in favor of the banks. And they've been challenged before, and it's gotten nowhere. It's gotten the attorneys who made the challenges, gotten them nowhere, except ridiculed. Because Thomson Reuters publishes what it feels like, what it damn well feels like, even if it's not in favor of the homeowner. Very seldom do you ever see a case. And most of these are appellate cases that have been published in the books. Rarely do you ever see district court publications in Westlaw. No. But here you got the government giving $9 million to Reuters to engage in active social engineering, large-scale deception. And Doge, of course, has been busy targeting USAID, which, by the way, as part of the process, $9,147,532 to news agency Reuters for active social engineering defense, large-scale social deception. In other words, we get the media to go in through Reuters, because that's just one deep state-controlled media. Because you don't take money from people, and then all of a sudden, hey, guess what? Now you're going to do what you're told. And then, of course, what happens when you find out, and this is something that Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary who Trump rated a 10, come on. And of course, all the sexists are like, you see, just because she's got blonde hair and big boobs, he rates her a 10. No, she's pretty sharp. She's controlling the left-wing media and calling them out, which rightfully so. She needs to do that. She is not a blonde bimbo. Trust me. She was there when Trump started. She's loyal to Trump. She's going to do and say what Trump tells her to do and say, and give these people a hard time. So then why Open the Books came out with an article, $32.3 million in spending from inside the White House and $11.9 million from staffers inside the House of Representatives. I mean, seriously. And now Politico, from what everyone is saying, and I'm talking about Open the Books here, payments to Politico, $2.8 million by 2020. We're talking about that's a subscription, but then these subscriptions were subsidized by the federal government. And they're expensive. The pro version, $3,000 per person. Yeah. What is going on here when you're paying off media outlets? See, all of this, remember what happened and what the media was doing during the pandemic? You remember that, don't you? What they were doing, they were basically being paid, as it all came out, to say things to steer the American people. Social engineering? Oh, I think so. It's not conspiracy theory. I mean, look how many people bought into the government lie, ran to the nearest medical outlet, whatever it may be, that long line under the tents that I saw personally, with all those ambulances at the end of the line. What did they do? They got the jab. They got more than one jab. People died. People had problems. They were adversely affected. Their immune systems are shot. They're still fighting it. They'll be on medicine for the rest of their life. And what are these 220 million people that got the jab? Both Republican and Democrat, by the way. I mean, this is the next best thing to Stalinism. And then Big Pharma, look how much money they make. How much of that went back to government officials? I guarantee you, if they dug into Fauci's finances and Collins' finances and Peter Daszak's finances, they'd find a ton of this went back. These guys got enriched off of Big Pharma. And then Gilead Sciences made Fauci even richer with remdesivir. And people are still getting this stuff. This is still part of hospital protocols because they make money. And see, this is why people don't trust doctors anymore, because they told them that this stuff was safe and effective when they knew otherwise. And then they wanted to hide the trials for 75 years. I mean, come on, folks. And we had Dr. James Thorpe on the show before we went video. And he was saying that, look, 1% of Americans still believe everything the government tells them. I don't know, Dr. Jim, I think this figure is a little bit higher. You can't fix stupid. Here, have a Tide Pod. You can't fix stupid. You got people out there that believe everything the government says, and this is why they're all rah, rah, rah. And they got these left-wing blue state city mayors that are on a power trip that want to try to take these illegal immigrants and make them all registered voters so they can stay in office. It's the only reason I can see they're there, because they're taxing the local services and the local infrastructure. That's what happens. I mean, I've seen the influx of immigrants personally in San Antonio. And if you go to University Health Center, their system, I mean, you see the waiting room is just overloaded with people that are what appears to be predominantly Hispanic. I mean, come on, they're that close. I mean, my lovely wife was at a convention, and she was talking to the San Antonio police officer who eloquently told her that the cartels are running San Antonio. Now, you wonder why we have the problems we do? It's because we've allowed these people, these criminals, to infiltrate us and the blue state city mayors. Status quo, leave everything be, everything will be fine. I mean, you might as well. I mean, if the Democrats allow this thing to play out, we will end up having another Joseph Stalin in the White House. And then everybody that is MAGA, that is conservative, that is alt-right, they're going to target them. I mean, what did Stalin do when he got in office? He killed 100 million of his people. That sounds like a wonderful idea. Oh, well, wait a minute. We did that with the jab, didn't we? No, we didn't quite get that many, but hey, we're working on it. Bill Gates says we're going to have another pandemic. And Bill Gates is probably behind the whole thing. I mean, he's giving money to USAID, and I mean, the CIA is using it. All these foreign agencies are using it. They're using it for bribes. They're using it. It's everybody's cash cow. And it's no wonder everybody's all pissed off at the Trump administration and Elon Musk right now, and why they want to limit Doge's power. They don't want them getting out there and taking away all that money, and they're recalling 10,000 USAID employees and shuttering offices and putting guards out in front of the building in Washington so they can't get in there. I mean, this is what they're doing. They're shutting them down, and Deep State is freaking out. They can't handle it because their cash cow's going away. They've just been uncovered. And people are going to start losing their jobs because the ones that don't take the buyout, they're going to start filtering down and looking at all these agencies and looking at where the waste is going, because Elon Musk has access to the Treasury. And he's going to look at the paychecks, and he's going to see who's doing what they're doing. He's going to look at the paycheck and see, okay, now is this going to somebody that's working, that's doing DEI? Is this going to somebody in a control tower somewhere who isn't doing their job or was only hired based on race, color, whatever, and not based on merit, not based on the fact they're a genius? We hired somebody with a 70%, merit score instead of somebody with a 99% merit score to sit in the tower. Oh, yeah, I think I'm going to go home now. And so you got one controller doing the work of two, and that's why you have a helicopter crashing into an airplane and killing 67 people. Oh, don't think the blowback on this, man. The lawsuits, oh, trust me, they're going to start, they'll fly. But see, here's the thing. If they find out that the control tower, which is that, now that's federal, that's its FAA, they find out the control tower and the helicopter, and that's military. Both of them, what do they have in common? U.S. government. Now, they don't want to privatize those things. Oh, no. This was U.S. military. Fort Belvoir, Virginia, crashes into an airplane that was just doing its thing, minding its own business. These people came out of nowhere. These three people, including one of Biden's little social escorts. Captain Rebecca Lobach. I'm sorry, Rebecca, thank you for your service. But hey, what were you thinking? Were you wearing night vision goggles? I mean, we're getting to the bottom of this. Why weren't you paying attention to the tower? Why was the tower not equipped to handle this? Why were you flying in an area of commercial traffic? Is this all merit-based? I mean, what's going on here? We have the picture of President Trump putting a Presidential Medal of Freedom on Ralph Lauren, and you're standing there holding his arm. I mean, everybody knows what you do and where you were. God forbid you were woke. God forbid you were in that cockpit because you were a DEI hire or whatever, or you were placed there. I mean, God forbid. We would like to think that that's not the case in the U.S. military, but that's Pete Hegseth's job to determine who's serving and who's not. This just gets crazier by the minute, folks. And then we, the people, have to sit there and wonder what's next on the plate, given the fact that now we know where the cash cow is. This is something that scares the hell out of most people, and you're trying to figure out whether or not you're in the right place at the right time right now, or you're in a spot in the country with all this deportation roundup that's going on that could turn violent, if not deadly. This is what I want to try to get Joel Skousen on the back end of the hour. He wrote a book called Strategic Relocation, and it's now in its 4th edition. He also publishes a newsletter, and we hope that we can get him on the show because we're nearing the bottom of the hour break right now and have a little discussion about that and how you can subscribe to the newsletter. All right. Crazy as it may seem, it's going to get nuttier before it's over because the pushback has begun. We'll be back after these words. Stay with us. Dave Krieger here. Are you having issues with your credit? With interest rates as high as they are now, this would be a great time to invest in yourself by getting a copy of the Credit Restoration Primer. So when mortgage home interest rates finally do come down, you'll have already taken the necessary steps to get your credit score where it needs to be so you can move forward in life. Thousands of consumers have benefited from the Credit Restoration Primer, and you can too. Go to cloudedtitles.com today.
Many Americans are growing increasingly concerned about the rapidly growing U.S. government deficits, recognizing the additional printing of paper money devalues U.S. currency. To compensate, American gold and silver coins will provide wealth protection. U.S. Coin Capital provides physical gold and silver coins delivered directly to our clients. You can reach us at 1-800-878-2646, uscoincapital.com.
Need a document notarized even when one or more of the signers is out of state? What a faster way to close your real estate deals by getting your documents professionally notarized online at professionalnotaryonline.com. For more information and to book an appointment, visit professionalnotaryonline.com or call Aaron at 941-400-8282, a trusted Krieger Files partner. Good in all 50 states. That's 941-400-8282.
Taking back America, one consumer at a time. It's the Krieger Files.
Okay, back at 32 minutes after the hour. Joel Skousen joins us. He puts out a newsletter called World Affairs Brief. And I know everybody is very concerned about the Trump Riviera on Gaza. Yeah, Trump golf course with massive sand traps, with all the clearing they're going to be doing over there. Joel Skousen is the author, by the way, of Strategic Relocation. I have a copy of the third edition. He's put out a fourth one. We cleared that up the last time that he was on the show. And we appreciate you coming back, sir.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you, despite the ups and downs of this world.
I've been likening this whole thing to a teeter-totter where the alt-right, the conservative right, the ultra-right has got the seesaw down on the ground, and they're holding the left wing up in the air, and we're the fulcrum watching this whole thing go down. I know that you didn't have very good showing in the Constitution Party, but, at least you got some votes.
Well, that's right. It was hard to go up against Trump. Everyone was so anxious to get rid of Biden and Harris that, in fact, it overwhelmed the great amount of election theft that had gone on by the Democratic Party, especially in registering hundreds of thousands of illegal aliens to vote. But the RNC did their job. They hired 3,500 attorneys to staff all the counting places in the swing states to make sure they didn't shut down voting and truck in hundreds of thousands of ballots like they did in 2020. So the theft was real in 2020, and it was real in 2024, but it could not overwhelm the outpouring of support for Donald Trump.
Well, that was perfectly obvious. Too big to rig is what they were all saying, and we kind of figured that out. And now election integrity with Steve Stern American, they're all about this thing. They think, hey, just because we put him in office in 24 doesn't mean we have to sit here and rest on our laurels. People who are conservative and right thinking, if they don't want Joseph Stalin in the White House, and that's what a lot of Democrats think he is, I don't see, the only thing that bothers me about Trump is he still hasn't walked back Operation Warp Speed.
That's right. He never admits error. That's one of Trump's problems. He never admits error. If anything, he'll talk about a big success and continue to take credit for it. At least he has said, I won't mandate a vaccine anymore. That's the least he's given out to those of us who know how deadly the COVID mRNA technology is. And that's why they only put 5% of the real vaccine in the batches, so that they wouldn't kill everybody. Otherwise, that would destroy people's confidence in vaccines, which they should have their confidence destroyed. I don't think there's any way I'll ever take the mRNA vaccine.
Well, no doubt. There's a lot of people I know that haven't. I haven't. You haven't. I'm just curious as to your take on RFK Jr. Was it a good pick?
It is a good pick. He's in his strong suit, which is trying to get rid of the influence of Big Pharma and the CDC and the FDA. And I was disappointed he backtracked so heavily on his vaccine stance in order to get confirmed. Now, no one really believes. If you read his book on the real Anthony Fauci or the Wuhan cover-up, no one would ever in their right mind believe that RFK Jr. really supports vaccines anymore, as he said. And I heard numerous times him say there's no way to mass produce a safe vaccine, and he's absolutely right. It's going to be damaging. And the mRNA, of course, has been falsified, the trials. So the Democrats, tried to get him to commit, in a vow, taking an oath to, support vaccines. And he says, well, I support the science. In other words, we're going to put everyone through rigorous science. So I think he'll do a good job if he's able to get in there. And because they certainly do have another pandemic established. Right now, we're going to astronomical egg prices not because of the bird flu, but because of the USDA paying chicken farmers to destroy millions of chickens as a preventative measure. I just walked into the store yesterday, and the cheapest eggs, the norm, not organic, nothing good. The cheapest egg, $11 a dozen. $11 a dozen, up from $3 a dozen.
Where are you buying these eggs? What, Utah?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is...
Eggs are not that high where you are?
No. I basically, when I can get them at the farmer's market, they're $4 a dozen, maybe $5 at the most. But I paid more, probably about like $6.50 for a dozen eggs. But still, it doesn't beat having your own flock and keeping them isolated, keeping them protected, keeping them away from other people's livestock, and having your own eggs, because 10 birds can give you 1,500 eggs a year if you take care of them.
Yeah, that's right. And we raise our own chickens and eggs here, but I just walked by the price and saw the pricing, and I was just shocked. Maybe it's not that way everywhere, but it soon will be if they keep killing millions of birds.
It will.
As a preventative measure, it will.
Yep. Well, where I'm at in Arkansas, they killed 109,000 of them so far. And I don't know, preventative, really? Oh, well, we have a H5N1. I don't know if I trust, after what the CDC and the NIH and the FDA and all these other acronyms have put out, during 2020 and 21, and all the misinformation and stuff directing us to get jabs. I have a hard time trusting the science, especially when it comes to our food supply. What's your take on that?
Absolutely right. And, that these agencies are just full of these people, who have been promoting this stuff. And I just don't think Trump's going to be able to get them all out of there. And who would you staff it with? Because everybody that comes out of the medical establishment, has the same mindset of these awful protocols and pro-drug, inclinations. So I don't know how you're going to solve those problems, but certainly RFK is a good start.
So when we have the strategic relocation 4th edition out, and that's been a couple of years ago, and I'm wondering...
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah, a couple of years ago. And so I'm looking at the situation and going, would you change any of that now? We already know about the blue state cities, and I've already been told indirectly that the cartels run San Antonio. Is there any place now that you would backpedal on and say it's not safe to live there anymore? Get out while you still can?
Well, even in the 4th edition, we downgraded Colorado, from 4 stars down to 2 stars because it turned into a radical blue state like California. California went to 0 stars. Florida is still 0 rated, even though it's turned conservative with Governor DeSantis and others. But, you can't make a relocation decision based upon temporary politics, because, one of the most dangerous things about the good things that Trump has done with executive orders is he's taken advantage of the growth of executive order powers that the Democrats started. But if the Democrat gets back in backlash in 2028, he can reverse all of that stuff with the stroke of a pen. So that's very dangerous. And of course, what Trump is proposing in Gaza is just insane. It shows he's on a roll. He thinks he's having powerful success, and he's just not thinking through this very well. I mean, this is trillions of dollars if you could even get any of the Arab states to absorb these radical Palestinians who have been radicalized by Hamas. And they're never going to be able to do it. Egypt and Jordan have said no. And it's good. Who's going to build all these cities? He talks about gathering, developers. Yeah, if somebody puts the bill. And Donald Trump talks about, saving a few $1 trillion in government, and yet he's going to go to Mars, which is $1 trillion, waste of money. And talking about, taking over Gaza and rebuilding the thing as a Riviera, there's $1 trillion boondoggle. No wonder he wants to get rid of the annual debt ceiling limit vote, which acts like a balanced budget amendment. It only takes a majority. You just have to stop deficit spending, and you got to balance the budget.
Yeah, see, I know. Well,
he's going to spend.
I was positing during the first part of the show today that Trump does these things just to get a reaction, like the tariffs. He did this just to get Sheinbaum and Trudeau to react and say, okay, we'll send troops to the border, we'll appoint a fentanyl czar, and you hold off imposing this 25% tariff for 30 days to make sure that we do what we're supposed to do. I mean, this is why he did this Gaza thing, I think, is because he wants to get a reaction out of the Arab nations in support of Israel. And sometimes I wonder whether he's trying to further the end times prophecies by going out and getting the third temple built and doing all these things and keeping Palestine from becoming its own state and doing all those things by, making the Palestinians, hey, if all you want to come back, we'll turn you into servants and you can come and work in our expensive casinos and Riviera type, posh resorts. And, we'll give you a job and your standard of living will go up and everything will be fine. I still think the whole thing was a ploy to get the other countries to react to see who comes out of the woodwork in opposition so we can deal with it. Doesn't it make sense?
Well, I don't think Trump's that smart. I really don't. I mean, Trump is a very narrow, single-minded, direct track, bull in the china closet, going to push through and do something. And he said at the beginning when he was going to put tariffs on unless you stop the fentanyl and the border immigration, thing, that's what it's going to be. So that was remember that they both initially said, well, we're going to retaliate with tariffs ourselves. And then they thought about it and about the price economically, and they buckled under at least to a certain extent. Now, I'm not sure at all if Mexico or Trudeau are sincere about stopping the illegal immigration, through that border. Fentanyl, it's not even going to stop it. Remember that the majority of fentanyl comes through in certified safe trucks that come across the border that the DEA is not allowed to intervene, even though the dogs go wild smelling drugs on board. That's how the majority, truckloads of fentanyl, the little stuff that's coming through in couriers, doesn't even compare to what the U.S. DEA has allowed in a secret, arrangement with the drug cartels to allow it to come through. And so this isn't going to solve the problem at all. It's good press for Trump, but it's not going to solve the problem unless you break that agreement that trucks are subject to search when they come through the border from Mexico.
Yeah, that's pretty scary stuff because this is, the cartels have a lot to do with it. And Biden set this whole thing up and put it in motion with the CBP app, which they disconnected. And of course, now these people are still here and they're here by the millions. And the thing is what we've got, 20,000, 30,000 illegals out of the country now. I mean, this is going to be a 4-year process if he's lucky.
But it's a good start, and it's it's just good to see that there are some, and I think there's some people that are starting to starve. I mean, they don't dare congregate the illegals at Lowe's and Home Depot waiting for a job on Saturday morning because of fear of being picked up, and so it's going to start to have some effect on people self-deporting. I hope, but this Gaza boondoggle is just. really, really bad. I mean, Trump hasn't thought this thing out at all. And it was very interesting that he announced this, just after he met with Netanyahu. And I'm sure Netanyahu loved this. The U.S. going to take my problem away from me and going to pay for the rebuilding of this and get rid of all the Palestinians. Why wouldn't he want that? But I'll tell you, it's never going to fly.
Well, Congress is already fighting him, including Rand Paul. They're thinking this whole thing is just a fly-by-night theory. It's not going to work. And if you're Congress and you're asked to appropriate funding for stuff like this, I'd have a real problem with it. And see, I'm always wondering why Trump wouldn't blow back. We already know that there's a pushback going on. The Democrats, Al Green is calling for Trump's impeachment again. That's never going to fly. This whole thing is nothing more than a shift show. Why is it taking so long right now, do you think, for the Senate to confirm RFK and Tulsi and Kash Patel? What's going on here?
Well, they did confirm Bondi, and she's really starting to round up the rascals and throw them out, and then getting the prosecutors named who went after Trump and their history. What you don't realize is the deep state. These are not the deep state. I mean, they are leftists that are in government that are directed. But the real deep state are the dirty tricks, hit squads, and other people who have their own source of funding. Congress doesn't know they exist. They're under deep cover. They're in the NSA. They're in the CIA. You're not going to get rid of those. Nobody's going to tell. It's a secret combination of power. A real true mafia type style. You're not going to get rid of those things. But remember that the big threat against Trump is all of these court cases that are now being filed, and judges like Royce Lambert just stopped his, what did he stop yesterday? A judge, of course, leftist judge in Seattle stopped the cutting off of foreign aid, which would have been a wonderful thing, Rand Paul says, and Ron Paul says. But anyway, there's a great many, and I think this USAID shutdown is going to be stopped by the courts.
See, that's their cash cow. That's deep state's cash cow.
Well, that's how they distribute money secretly, to everything through USAID, and a lot through the State Department, even more through the State Department. I mean, USAID funded $15 million for condoms to the Taliban. But look what the State Department, $500,000 to promote expansion of atheism in Nepal. That was State Department. $1 million to boost French-speaking LGBT groups in West and Central Africa. State Department again. $14 million in cash vouchers for immigrants in the southern border through the State Department again. $20,000 for a drag show in Ecuador. That was the State Department. $50,000 for transgender opera in Colombia. That was the State Department. So it is USAID. I mean, $3 million for being LGBTQ in the Caribbean. It was a new program by USAID. But in the list that I've got that I'm putting out in Friday's World Affairs Brief, 3/4 of it is the State Department. And so Marco is going to put a stop to those things. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I bet he will. And this is the thing. He is doing what Trump mandates, but the thing is about the mandates and everything that his policies being carried out, and their people have already vowed that they're going to stop this at all costs. I mean, this is all part of that teeter-totter that's going on in D.C. right now, where it's, if you don't want to look at it as a seesaw, you can look at it as a merry-go-round, and Americans are sick and tired of it. And I like the idea that you said before, to not go somewhere or move somewhere based on temporary political solutions. What would you base it on? If people were to say, look, I got to go somewhere where I can make better money and have a better environment, and I don't like the cold weather, or whatever the case may be, what do you tell people in that regard? What's the good advice for that?
First of all, I tell them, don't make decisions based on superficial criteria like warm weather. Because warm weather, when the lights go out, when an EMP strike and that's what people don't understand. Nobody's talking about the big war, the world war that we're facing down directly with Russia and China. It's going to happen in the latter part of this decade. Trump doesn't have a clue. He's going to spend trillions of dollars trying to rebuild Gaza, and in the middle of halfway through that thing, the war is going to end. There's going to be no more construction. I mean, these stupid investors think in 5, 10, and 15-year increments of investments. Nobody's thinking about the war that's coming. And, we frustrate about the political situation, but remember, it doesn't matter who's in charge. Russia and China are going to strike this nation before the end of this decade. And they're building for it. There's no weapon that's ever been developed that hasn't been used eventually. And, the military knows it's coming, and they're secretly trying to get prepared for it. But it's going to be very difficult. But so in terms of strategic relocation, what I tell people, you've got to go where there's a vast majority of conservative, like-minded, religious-oriented, moral people, period. Because when there's nothing else but to depend upon each other, you're going to have a moral basis of society. And that's why, Utah and Idaho have the highest rating still, and even though they've gone down a notch because they're controlled by mainstream Republicans and the governors, like every red state, mainstream Republican governors and legislatures. But still, the people, you got a moral base there that is going to knit together and hold together as good as possible. And it's not going to be nice. You have to prepare for this stuff that's coming. I mean, you think about a year without electricity in the United States. Think of the pillaging and the rape and the murder and the robbery. You don't want to be in a blue city. You don't want to be in an area where there's got a lot of gangs and other things. You've got to be out in the rural areas, and that's what strategic relocation is all about.
Yeah, this is what I was anticipating you were going to say, because we're starting to see rural sprawl. It's no longer urban sprawl, it's rural sprawl. People are getting away from the major cities, it doesn't matter where, and they're getting together and being in areas with like-minded people. The whole idea is, though, figuring out a way to exist while you're there. Have you contemplated that at all?
Well, the problem is, they're going rural, but they're still within commuting distance of the big blue areas. And that means they're going to get overrun when the lights go out. Because I tell you, when a city of 20 million people like Los Angeles starts to empty out of those valleys because there's no food and just utter chaos, all the little outlying areas are going to get overwhelmed. That's what happened in World War II when the Russians invaded Germany and the Germans started to flee. They eventually got to the farms. Now, if they had underground hidden cellars, and that's what I promote, is people need to have underground basement level shelters that are concealed so that you get out of the way. If mobs are coming down the street pillaging, and you don't want to get out a gun and try to shoot starving people. You save that weaponry for the hardened criminals that come around that need to be eliminated. But people need to realize, and the problem with Trump, and this is what I want to end with today, is that if you give people any hope that there's a savior that's going to save them from all this, like Donald Trump, they will not prepare. And even Donald Trump is not going to be able to drain the swamp. They're underground. They're hiding. They're waiting for him to move on. And believe me, when the war comes, even if Donald Trump, there's nothing he can do about it. All of these pipe dreams about going to Mars and rebuilding Gaza are out the window. We're back to reality again. So people need to prepare for these things. And unfortunately, it's expensive. It takes time. You really have to dedicate to it. That's why I've written the books that I have, Strategic Relocation and the Secure Home, about how to do all these types of things. But it's really amazing. When Reagan got elected, funding for conservative movements died on the vine. When Trump got elected the first time, died on the vine. And preparedness stopped as well. Emergency Essentials, the biggest preparedness outfit in the United States, went under when the first Trump administration. And that's what's happening again. So people have to think it's not going to be saved. You can't change the world and have a new golden era as long as the morality of people is declining and good judgment is declining, and that's not stopping.
No, it isn't. And again, we have Israel that pretty much has infiltrated our government, AIPAC and everybody else. I mean, nothing has changed. The elements are still in play. People still put their faith in government when they should be putting their faith in God and themselves. It's God, country, family, in that order. It's one of those things that people now are going to have to make some serious adjustments financially, because even though Trump says, we're going to do things and bring the prices down of all this stuff, it's going to take time we may not have.
No, but it probably won't. You know that the big hedge funds are shorting the market, the stock market, They're going to lose billions if it doesn't pull. But what they have inside information, I think that remember, Trump did not replace Powell at the Federal Reserve. He put in a gay,
hedge fund manager. Yes, Scott Bessent. Man.
Treasury. They could easily pull the plug on the economy and create a depression and destroy Trump's dream of a new prosperous America. And that's what I think we have to fear and watch, is they haven't begun to fight yet. And right now we're in a heyday. We think Trump is winning, and we're just bathing in the euphoria of what's going on. But we've got to remember, Satan still rules in this world, and we're going downhill still.
Well, so it looks like we have to scale down and do something productive that's going to make us money in the interim, because we have to be able to survive.
Yeah, people really don't have time to change, jobs and other things. They just need to work hard, save as much, stop going out to dinner, start to save like mad, and start to spend on preparedness, because once this war comes and once the electricity goes off, no preparedness will happen at all. Nothing will be available. So.
And you think we're going to get hit with an EMP strike before the end of the decade?
And it'll precede the nuclear strike on military forces, not on cities. Russia and China want to just decapitate our military and then blackmail us into submission. But just having no electricity for a year, because, we don't stockpile any of the long-distance transformers. When those get knocked out, power's not coming back. They're all made in Germany or South Korea or China, and we're not getting any in the war.
No, I mean, even if they still have components in them that could be fried in the event of electromagnetic pulse, and that's the thing that people are not realizing. I'm glad you brought it up. Now, tell me about this with the time we got left. Tell me about the newsletter. Where do you go to get it? How do you subscribe?
Well, the newsletter is called the World Affairs Brief. It's my take on world affairs brief every single week from a perspective of what the deep state is doing and controlling and what you're not learning elsewhere. And it's available at worldaffairsbrief.com. And what you do, if you go to the website, is click on Request a Sample on the left-hand side. It'll give you the current edition that we're talking about today, and it tells you the options of subscribing by the week, by the month, or by the year, or every 2 years. It's only a modest $48 a year.
Well, I appreciate that, Joel Skousen. We're out of time for today, but we thank you so much for coming back on, giving us a little perspective that we might otherwise have. Folks, we'll be back tomorrow, Friday edition. Fred Deshefsky talks about the economy with us again. This time you can actually see him here as we proceed through another segment of the Krieger Files. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. See you tomorrow.
With inflation constantly chewing away at the value of paper money, perhaps it's time for Americans to bite back. Ownership of gold and silver coins provides great counterbalance to weaker paper money value. U.S. Coin Capital provides physical gold and silver coins. You can reach us directly at 1-800-878-2646, uscoincapital.com.
Need a document notarized even when one or more of the signers is out of state? What a faster way to close your real estate deals by getting your documents professionally notarized online at professionalnotaryonline.com. For more information and to book an appointment, visit professionalnotaryonline.com or call Aaron at 941-400-8282. A trusted Krieger Files partner. Good in all 50 states. That's 941-400-8282. Dave Krieger here. Are you having issues with your credit? With interest rates as high as they are now, this would be a great time to invest in yourself by getting a copy of the Credit Restoration Primer. So when mortgage home interest rates finally do come down, you'll have already taken the necessary steps to get your credit score where it needs to be so you can move forward in life. Thousands of consumers have benefited from the Credit Restoration Primer, and you can too. Go to cloudedtitles.com today.
Broadcasting to the U.S. and around the world by way of clear digital audio, 22,500 miles above the planet. This is the Global Star Radio Network.